I got a lot of text that for you to come back on and to do a different recipe. So it may end up being something a little bit regular, Veronica.
Oh my gosh.
You are in demand now.
Clearly.
Oop, we lost her. We lost her already.
And this people is
she's coming back. She's coming back on.
Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Apparently I got excited. Oh my goodness.
Oh, okay. So already we have the question, what are we making? I knew it was going to be the question. Thank you, Andrea.
So today we are doing red velvet brownie.
Woo!
Yes. And let me see. I found this recipe. This is 2020. I think I found this recipe probably easily 4 years ago. And it was a huge hit with my co-workers when I worked at a company that before I'm working with, who I'm working with now.
Okay.
They absolutely loved it. I mean, they went bonkers over these red velvet brownies. Seriously. So the recipe it's simple. It's nothing crazy. And unlike the pound cake recipe that I told you guys about 2 weeks ago, where we were all sifting flour, for this recipe, we're not sifting flour. Because remember, with brownies and cookie bars, we're not going to sift flour. So This recipe is just how it's written. That's what we're going to do. Is no hidden secrets. It's not encrypted with something that you're supposed to do and then you don't do it. However it's written, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, that's good. So this one's kind of is it foolproof?
I would say it's foolproof. Yes, it's foolproof. And It's a straight shooter. It's a straight shooter type recipe. So I've already put 2 sticks of butter at room temperature now.
What happened? Okay, we lost you for a second.
Oh my gosh, what is going on? This is why I need a camera person.
That was me. That was me. My bad. I put my hand on the control and just clicked you on off. So sorry.
So somebody don't want to try to get this recipe apparently, because these two got the recipe before we even started. So if you don't get it, but I've started with 2 sticks of butter that's at room temperature, and then now I'm getting ready to put in 1.5 cups of it says granulated sugar, white sugar. Okay, so white sugar that I'm going to put in my mixer, and then we'll go to 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Now, white sugar is going to loosely go into our cup. And I say loosely because when we get to the brown sugar, you'll see what I mean about the white sugar being loose in our cup. Hold on. So when you get the brown sugar, brown sugar got molasses in it, right? So that's the difference between white and brown sugar. It has molasses. Now, in this recipe, it just says brown sugar. Whether you use the light brown or the dark brown, doesn't matter. When we get to brown sugar needs to be packed. So once you get it in a cup, you want to kind of pack it down. And I do this inside the bag because I don't like to touch it. So that it's level, sort of level with your measuring cup. So we're going to do 1.5 cups of brown sugar, and I'm using light brown sugar. So I'm going to get it in there, smash it in there with my bag, because I want to make sure I pack it down in there. And then this is my last one because I'm using a 1/2 cup measuring cup. So I'm going to get it in there, smooth it out, flatten it down. Can you see that? And then put that in my cup or my mixing bowl. So now I got my 2 sugars, the white and the brown, my 2 sticks of butter, and I'm getting ready to start my mixer because this is the same as like how we did 2 weeks ago with the pound cake. We're going to cream it together and let that come together about 2 minutes or so. And then we'll move on to our other stuff, specifically our eggs. So you need 4 eggs for this. So if you're writing this down, that's 2 sticks of butter, room temperature, 1.5 cups of white sugar, 1.5 cups of brown sugar, 4 eggs, and let me just, while that's doing its thing, 2 ounces of red color, 4 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, not sifted, 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and then a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. To me, the salt is optional because sometimes I will use butter that is salted. Sometimes I use butter that's unsalted. If you're one of those people who need to make sure, you know, you watch your salt intake, depending on your butter, if it has salt in it, you may not need to put that 1/2 teaspoon of salt in there. But for me, doesn't matter one way or the other. So, because I will interchangeably use salted butter or unsalted butter. For me, butter is butter.
Awesome. So we do have a question. I'm trying to get the screens right. Sorry about that. We have a couple of questions. Can you use dark brown sugar? Does that matter?
That does not matter.
Okay, and another there's a few questions. Sorry. What do the eggs help with? What do eggs do in a recipe?
The eggs are the binder, so it's going to help it all come together, stay together. Otherwise, it'll just be a gloopy mess if you don't use eggs.
And why are we? You mentioned a couple times that we're sifting. So I want to know, why do we not have to sift?
We're not sifting in the brownie recipe because we want brownies tend to be dense and gooey. So we want that ooey gooey type texture. If we were to sift the flour, it would come out like cake-like. You know, we don't want cake-like brownies. You know, you want that rich, dense texture for a brownie. So that's why we're not sifting today.
Okay, perfect. And again, while she's doing this, just want to remind people that we are doing our raffle. Like the Les Maisons Facebook or Instagram page, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And this is all thank you to Arnold Martin with Silverton Mortgage. So thank you again. That'll be scrolling. And Veronica, we're also putting the ingredients on the screen as well, so people can see those.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I don't tend to go exactly by my recipe when I add my ingredients in. As long as they all get in the bowl at the end, that's fine. So right now, I'm getting ready to put in my vanilla, which is 4 tablespoons of vanilla, or excuse me, 4 teaspoons.
Ooh, that was
very important, people.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna
4 teaspoons of vanilla, because you know I don't want to be held responsible for people putting in 4 tablespoons of vanilla, because it'll be really good, but that'll be a lot. So got that in there, and hold on, guys. Remember, I don't have a camera person, so I'm the baker and the camera person all in one. So sometimes I step off camera to do certain things. So now I'm gonna show you how that looks in the bowl. That's the two sugars, the white and the brown sugar, the butter, and the vanilla. So now I'm gonna just add in one egg at a time. Bloop. There we go. And then another egg. Let that all come together. And then yet another egg. And then there's our last egg. So we got all 4 eggs in there now. We're gonna let that do its thing. Now I'll flip it back around so you guys can see me when I talk. Hopefully my phone will work with me and not slide off. There we go. So
we do have another question for you, Veronica.
Okay. I'm still here.
How do you determine how many eggs to use in a recipe?
Now this recipe, this is not one of my recipes. I actually found this one online. So depending on the recipe, you know, I'll go by a recipe. When I first try something, I'll go by the recipe to the letter. For when I make my cakes by scratch, that was just how I learned from my mom the number of eggs she used. I, picked it up that way. So when it comes to baking, you want enough eggs to hold it together, but not too many that's going to make it too tight. Because that's the other thing. Putting too many eggs will make it really tight. And tight meaning that like that crumb texture, that the crumb of your cake will be not necessarily dry, but it'll feel like thick.
Is it like crumbly?
Like what?
Crumbly? Or
no, not crumbly. It'll just, you know how sometimes when you eat a cake and you got crumbs dripping or dropping down from you, a tight cake won't probably have a lot of crumbs dropping.
Okay.
So that's the whole thing, is you don't want a really tight cake. So now I have my butter, my 2 sugars, and my eggs. So now I'm gonna go with my cocoa. And one thing I want you guys to see too is that when you're doing cocoa or any type of dry ingredient, this is the thing. Some recipes will say a heap. Some will, just say tablespoons. Like in this case, this one just says 6 tablespoons. You don't ever want to use a heaping tablespoon. Like this is what would be considered a heaping tablespoon. So what I'm going to do is level off my teaspoon so that there is just enough cocoa powder in the teaspoon like that. So that's leveled off now. It's not heaped up there. So it's going to be 6 of these. That's 1. And then because cocoa is, got some lumps in it, it's a bit lumpy. So I'll, do like that to try to get the lumps knocked out of it. That's 2. Three. 4. I have to count out loud, otherwise I'll put too much in there. 5. Uh-oh. This is the last one. 6. Right? So now we have our cocoa in there. Next thing we're going to put in is the red color, which everybody loves seeing when that red color goes in. And now 2 ounces of this. Now how I measure my red color, I use a shot glass. I use a shot glass for a couple of reasons. One, a standard shot glass is 1.5 fluid ounces. So I know if I use 1.5 of these, then I have 2 ounces of food coloring. The other reason is because I don't have any other type of measuring device or tool or whatever to measure fluid ounces. So this is my go-to. And who doesn't love a shot glass? I do. So put my color in there. That was 1. And then put my 1/2
Now,
ounce.
Veronica, you said that food coloring is optional. Is it just because people tend to think that the red velvet brownies have to be red?
Red velvet brownies, anything red velvet, whether it's cake, brownies, cookies, cupcakes, all red velvet, anything will always have red color in it. The difference, like if you choose not to put the red color, if you choose not to put the red color in the brownies, then you'll just have regular chocolate brownies. That's all.
Okay.
And I've seen some people, because some people are concerned about the food coloring and the health, adverse health effects of it. They use beets actually to make.
Yeah, some people do.
Yeah.
I've never used the beets for my coloring. I've always used the actual, food grade coloring.
Mm-hmm.
Never had any issues, but I think that's probably because I don't have any allergies to it. I don't know if that's what some people's, issue is with it, is that they have an allergy to it. But by all means, find out what works best for you. If it's the beet or if it's some type of vegan or organic coloring out there, try it. I mean, I would never tell anybody to do it just my way and then you have allergies or whatever, because I don't want anyone to ever get, sick off of something that I said. You know what your issues are as far as allergies and health, issues. So by all means, follow that.
Okay, so we pop back on the screen because we have a couple more questions.
I'm listening.
Is it okay to use hot chocolate cocoa powder?
Yep, because that's exactly what I use. It says.
Oh Lord!
Sorry guys, hold on.
It's live, everyone.
I am tearing up my cabinet, but I'm using baking cocoa.
Okay.
But it's the same stuff you would use for making cakes and icings and whatever else. I'm sure there's a way to make hot chocolate, which is on the back of this. So and this brand came from Aldi's. It's the same as the Hershey's that you normally see. So I just happen to be in Aldi's. Oh, I need cocoa powder. Got cocoa powder. So I don't overthink it when it comes to like making things chocolate. Some people do like to use the baking chocolates, like the ones that look like candies, and they'll melt it. You can use that too. I've never done it, but I mean, once you get this recipe in your hand, that's your recipe. You do what's best for you, however works best for you. This works well for me. And I personally, I don't tend to bake just for myself, simply because I have a sweet tooth. I will eat it, and I don't want to eat it all the time. So that's the whole reason I don't tend to experiment too much with my baking recipes, because I don't need a whole cake. in my house with me. I don't need an entire batch or two of brownies in the house with me. So whenever I make
No,
for family,
no.
yeah.
You go back to the food coloring, you can also really mix things up. Like say for St. Patrick's Day, you can put green food coloring in. So
Yep.
it can always be, Cinco de Mayo. You can put red food coloring if you want. I mean, like
I had
more
someone who did
yellow.
like blue velvet, like they do green velvet,
Yeah.
so like St. Patrick's Day, they do blue velvet. So people like mix it up.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have one more question.
Okay.
What's the difference between ounces and fluid ounces?
When it comes to fluid ounces, that's when you're measuring anything, water, like the food coloring, anything that's liquid.
Liquid, yeah.
That's the biggest difference because that's when you're getting into like volume weight, mass weight, and all that other scientific stuff that I failed to research before I got online. So,
yeah, because you have like wet measuring utensils and dry measuring utensils. So that's
right.
Yeah.
So the only time I will use my dry ingredients, like when it comes to tablespoons are tablespoons, regardless if it's water or dry ingredients or whatever. But when you start getting into like ounces and cup, like your bigger measurements, you want to use the appropriate measuring tool for that ingredient because then you might end up with too much of something.
Right.
And that's the one thing I haven't learned is how to counterbalance something. If I put too much in there.
Okay,
people don't realize how scientific baking actually is, as opposed to cooking.
It is.
Yes. You can be one thing off and totally like jack up a
Exactly.
recipe where cooking, you just improvise and stumble upon something like, oh, that's not bad. Yeah, cooking is definitely a science.
Baking.
And so, guys, I've already while we were talking, I was putting my flour in. I did it in 1/2 cup increments, but it's still 2.5 cups of flour that ended up into the batter. And so this batter will end up being very thick. And when I say very thick, I'm talking about you're going to get a forearm workout when it's time for you to pull it out the bowl, to put it into your pan to bake. It's a lot. And so, which means that depending on if you're using a stand mixer or a hand mixer, you're still going to have to scrape in the very bottom because your sugars that you started off with, your sugars and your butter, that may not necessarily, that red coloring may not make it all the way down there. So you're going to have to get in there and scrape it down and bring it all together. Otherwise, you'll have streaks in the brownie batch. So we're there to show you guys how that works. So now that we have everything in the bowl, turn my mixer off and show y'all a quick hack, which is, so I'm getting ready to take my bowl off the mixer, right? And so I got to scrape down my beater and get everything, as much of it off as I can so that we're not, shorting our batch of brownies here. But the hack is this. Since I'm having to work one-handed because I'm also my own cameraman, I have a wet dishcloth on here on my countertop. So I'm putting that down because I need to create some type of leverage under my pan so that it doesn't move across the counter while I'm scraping down. Normally, I will have both of my hands on the handle here to, do what I'm doing, but I'm scraping down in there because if you can see that, let's see if I can move it over to the light a little bit more and hope to God I don't knock my pan into the sink. But if you look further down, way down into your pan, you'll be able to see that there are some streaks where the red color didn't make it all the way down in there. That's what you want to scrape together and bring it together. Can you guys see that? way down in there. Let's see if I can. Nah, not able to get it down in there right. But there's some batter down there that didn't come together with the beaters going, or the beater going on the mixer. So that's what I'm doing now, is scraping it so that I can actually bring it all together and make it one uniform batch. And so this is where I'm saying you're going to get your forearm workout at, working with this thick batter.
Okay, we have another question. If you aren't ready to bake the mixture yet, can you freeze it until you're ready?
I have never tried that, and I have actually wanted to try that before to see. Now, the only thing that I have done before was one year, my family and I went to Myrtle Beach for Thanksgiving, and I did not want to lug all of my ingredients down to the beach. So what I did, all my dry ingredients, I put those together in a Ziploc bag. So my flour and my cocoa powder all went into a bag, and then everything else that was needed, the sugars and the butter and the flavoring, the vanilla and the color, that I picked up from the store down in Myrtle Beach and was able to do my brownies, because again, I didn't have to work with sifted flour, so it didn't matter. So throw 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour in a Ziploc bag, 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Got into the car, went to the beach. We had red velvet brownies down there at the beach for Thanksgiving. Freezing a batter, I'll have to experiment with that to let you know if it will freeze well, and then, see how that goes. I've never tried it before, but I have to try it and let you guys know. So my batter is now, it looks uniform, all red. So now I'm going to prepare my pan, which is a 9x13 pan. And y'all remember from the last time when I did the cake, and I told y'all I don't like to mess with my hands being dirty, so I use Baker's Joy, which has flour in it. So that's how I prep my pans. So what I'm gonna do again to prep my pan, and if you do it generously in your pan, I promise you, nothing will stick in your pan. Absolutely nothing. It will turn out beautifully for you, and you'll have a fairly clean pan, meaning nothing stuck on in it. So now I'm just going to get this batter poured in there. And by the way, my oven was already preheated to 350 prior to starting. And so that's the other thing. Make sure that your oven is preheated to 350. And before you start everything, that way when you get your batter poured up into your pan, you can just go ahead and stick it into your hot oven. And that's that. And so this is how it's going to look in the pan. And then I'm just going to smooth that out. Oh, I forgot my own hack. Hold on, y'all. Look at that. Put my dishcloth back down. Never mind that red coloring. When you're working with red coloring, red gets on everything. So there we go. Now I can do this one-handed like I want it. I'm going to smooth this out. And I'm going to tell you now, this red velvet brownie recipe, if you're one of those people who like the ooey gooey center, this is the recipe for that. Those middle pieces, like right in here, OMG. I'm telling you. The corners come out beautifully with that crunchy outside, and you get a good bit of the gooiness in the middle of it. But I'm telling you, this brownie recipe is amazing, simply amazing. And like I said, if you don't want the red color in there, leave it out. You'll add 4 tablespoons of not yeah 4 tablespoons of either water or milk if you don't want to use the red coloring, and it'll come out just as lovely. So now I'm gonna shove this into the hot oven, and I'm gonna set my timer to I'm gonna set my timer to 35 minutes. In my oven, 35 minutes is perfect. On the recipe, you can do it, bake these between 30 and 40 minutes. It's up to you, it's up to your oven, really, for you to see how quickly they'll get done in your oven. But this is the finished product of the red velvet brownies. See, this is a corner piece here. You see how you got your crunchy corner there, and you still got your ooey gooey middle there. And then one of the middle pieces, excuse me, I have to pick it up. Sorry, y'all. See what I'm talking about? How you got your gooiness in there on all sides. And this brownie recipe will create a bit of a crust, like a crunchy crust. Amazing. My family went bonkers over this recipe too for Thanksgiving.
Awesome. That looks so good. So I have one more question. Does the amount of food coloring change the flavor of the brownies?
Nope. And the reason I say that is because we put enough cocoa in there. It's gonna taste like red is not a flavor, but y'all know how we are in our culture, red Kool-Aid. But it's gonna taste like red chocolate. I mean, it's a deep cocoa flavor because of the amount of cocoa powder that we put in there. If you were blindfolded, you wouldn't know the difference between this being red velvet or just regular chocolate brownies.
And then we had another question. If you're not ready to bake it yet, can you freeze the batter?
I asked that already.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to try. I'm gonna have to test that one. I'm going to have to test that one. It's okay. I'm gonna have to test that one because I'm not sure. And like things happen. Like you could be in the middle of making this recipe, and something happens that prevents you from having to, being able to stick it in the oven. Well, you never know. So one day I'm gonna have to test that to see if anything happens with trying to freeze the batter. I'm thinking it won't, but I'm gonna find out and I'll let you guys know. So I don't mind asking or answering the same question. So
yes, sorry about that. I was actually looking at texts that people were sending me about this show that we're on right now, so I apologize.
Well, we do have another question that Cassia mentioned to me earlier, but not to you. Have you ever tried it with icing, like a cream cheese frosting or a caramel frosting? Have you ever done that?
It's funny you asked that. I did not, but guess who? My mom did. My mom
wow.
She did it for Valentine's Day this year, and she asked me for the recipe, and she made it, and then she did the cream cheese icing. This chick swirled it into the batter across the top, and that took it to another level. Like these are good on their own, but you put a cream cheese icing, I can't even talk about it. I'm telling you, it tastes that much better with the cream cheese icing on it.
Okay, so, you have to give it up to the OG One in, one
Oh,
in.
definitely, because that one, I didn't even think to try to put a cream cheese icing on it, but she called me for the recipe and then put the cream cheese icing on there. I get to her house, oh, Mama, you don't put icing on there. I want to try something different. Trust me.
Amazing.
We love
you. Put that cream cheese icing on there.
Yes.
We love you, Mrs.
Put it on there.
Bye.
They are watching too. My parents are watching again. So she's sitting at the house, probably just laughing that I'm talking about her.
Oh God. Someone mentioned passion fruit icing would be great too.
Say again?
Passion fruit icing.
Oh wow. I've never done the icing on the brownies, but here's what I'm going to say. Almost anything goes with chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Try it and then let me know. Because when it comes to brownies, I like my brownies kind of plain. And like I like them straight from the oven, like when they're hot and kind of gooey and almost too hot to eat. So I don't really experiment too much with the different icings and stuff with it.
Yeah.
But try it with the passion fruit. Try it with fresh strawberries on there. Chocolate covered strawberries and stuff. Try it with any of those fruits, and like a creme fraiche or a good vanilla bean ice cream. You can't go wrong with it. It's
I'm
dessert.
literally gonna go make brownies right now. Like, thanks, Veronica.
It's dessert. You can't go wrong with the dessert. I mean, is this recipe, and I think it was Nasil who asked me earlier, like, is this foolproof? You really can't mess this up. I'm so serious. You can't mess it up.
Well,
I mean,
Veronica, if somebody is not going for seconds, how many people do this feed?
Yeah, if Nasil wasn't eating brownies.
So funny thing is, when I made this recipe for my family about 2 years ago, because it was so many of us, and what happened was I was supposed to make 2 batches, and I had run out of vanilla ice cream. Vanilla flavoring, and I never did make it back to the store that Thanksgiving week. So we had to share 1 batch in a 9x13, and those brownies were probably like 1 inch by 1 inch. And they ended up literally being enough for everyone, but they were probably on their best behavior too, because they were trying to hold back for others. But I'm telling you, normally, like, now I cut these big because there's no one here, and most of those are probably going into the freezer. But you really can get, at the very least, 12 out of that pan, up to, because I tried it, 24.
Wow.
Out of one batch.
So yeah, someone asked about the recipe. We will be posting the recipe on the video, underneath the video, so you guys can refer back to it. With all the good stuff, all the ingredients, the measurements, and the tip and all that good stuff. So yeah, we'll get that out to you guys. I literally want to make it right now. I don't think we have any red food coloring though, but
oh no, let me warn y'all. Red color is not cheap. I don't care what brand it is. So whenever you do get it, be sure that that's what you really want, is the red color in there, because it's expensive. Like 2 ounces, I think it's close to $5. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all my secret. I don't normally tell people this secret.
Here's an exclusive, guys. Listen up.
Oh, this is a true exclusive, because let me tell you. Now, I'm not gonna tell you where I got it from, but I'm gonna tell you how I end up with a lot of red color in my house. I buy a 32 ounce jar of red color. This color pays for itself when I have sold red velvet cakes in the past. And this red color, this particular bottle has been in my house for probably at this point just under a year. And I'm already below half. It's available. You can get it online. That's all I'm gonna say.
I used to get it from like bakeries, like not bakeries, but like bakery supply stores. Yeah.
Check Amazon. Seriously, check Amazon. And as long as it's food grade, don't make sure it's food grade. Okay. Don't just get red color and it's not safe for using in foods, That's the biggest difference. Just make sure of that. But if you're not going to use a lot of it, don't go for a 32-ounce bottle. But I tend to go through a lot of it because I have a couple people in my family who only want me to make like red velvet anything. There's a whole world of desserts out there, and all they want is red velvet.
Hey.
So
that's if it ain't broke.
Right. Well, but I'm like, I try to get them to go to other stuff, and I have had people with their mouths poked out on Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving. We're supposed to have red velvet. Who said? Where's the book?
Tradition, Veronica. Tradition says.
Hey.
I found the hard way from my family too. Thanksgiving is not the day to try something new or experiment. We want our tried and true favorites. No experimentation on Thanksgiving.
And
I will try new stuff, but I will try it before Thanksgiving, before I set it on that table. Because I have one cousin, and I didn't tell him that I had made a hummingbird cake before he got to the house. Homeboy was mad. And he left out the house on Thanksgiving Day to go see if he could find red velvet anything in Columbia, South Carolina. And he came back, mouth was poked out. He wouldn't even eat the hummingbird cake. I was like, I was trying something new. You can't try anything new.
Well, I do have to admit that when it comes to your mom, I really don't want anything but a red velvet cake as well.
Okay, so guys, Nasia is my mom's biggest red velvet fan because when my parents one year, several years ago, and Nasia, me and my mom were just talking about this, and how they came to Boston.
That's right.
On a senior trip. And my mom made Nasia a red velvet cake, and the people on her bus were plotting and hoping that Nasia would not come get that cake because they were already with their forks like, is she coming? Because they wanted that cake, and they were so disappointed when you showed up with your mom to come get that cake.
And we ate every last bite of it. Thank you again, Mrs. Benson.
She said that was the hardest time she's ever had with a cake. Taking it to somebody was because so many people on that bus wanted your cake, Nasia.
And we loved every last bite.
One of your siblings saying, "Stop talking about your family, girl."
We can tell that story. We can tell that one. But my only thing is, like, when it comes to baking, before you actually try, read through the recipe. See how it sounds to you. Does it sound like something you can actually pull off? Does it sound like something that will actually fit the taste that you're looking for? And then when you get ready to try it exactly the way that it's written before you go and try to tweak it. Because a lot of people want to tweak a recipe before they try it and then they're disappointed. Try it first the way that it's written. And then when you get ready to make it again, if you see that there's something in that recipe that you may not want, or you may want to try something else in place of, do it the second time around. That's all. I mean, I'll read through a recipe and I'm like, I can tell which ones, especially when I do cooking. When I cook something, I can already tell, okay, I'm not going to like that. And cooking is a bit more forgiving than baking.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of get away with tweaking certain things in cooking. But when it comes to baking, I would tell anybody, try that recipe exactly as it's written first. And then the second or third time that you go to try to make it, then make your tweaks then, you know?
I just want to add that I've already received a request for Veronica to appear in 2 weeks, and
No way.
the question was, what are we making next? So, pretty firm believer that Veronica, if we ask nicely, may be back again.
I'll tell you, by popular demand.
Oh my gosh.
We love to cook and we love baking. I've been baking it, so much. It's just so relaxing.
It is. It is. It's very relaxing. And some of the stuff that I do, I don't have to think about it. I mean, because I've done them before, but no, when it's something new, then I'll print it off, put it on top, tape it to my cabinet where I'm standing to bake so that it's right there in my face. But for the most part, I don't have to think. I'm just doing my thing. I might have the TV on in the living room, or I might put music on my phone and have it chilling up here in the windowsill, and I do my thing. And that's that. I mean, is baking is not rocket science. It's not you building a house. Is take your time, go slow with it. And if it's your first time, maybe expect something may not come out the way you think. But for this recipe, expect you to enjoy it, okay? Because this one, I swear, is a foolproof recipe.
Okay, what she's saying is you have to work hard not to get it right.
Yes, you would have to work hard you would have to forget to put something in this one, like the cocoa powder or something, and that, I mean, there could be far worse things that you can forget to put in a cake than the cocoa. My mom just told me recently that there was a cake she had made once and she got all the way to the end and she tasted her batter and was like, I didn't put any sugar in this. There are far worse things you can forget to put in a cake than cocoa powder.
Either the baking soda or the baking powder. It's like, kind of the easy ingredients that you don't have to worry about. So
just relax and if you sometimes, like, if you have to put everybody out the kitchen while you do your thing, do that so that you can get through it so that everybody can enjoy it. But don't overthink it.
And I would suggest to people, if you have a new oven, or if you've moved somewhere where there's altitude difference, to really try out your oven first, see how it works out, and just keep checking on it.
Nasia, thank you. That is monumental for cooking or baking. Learn your oven, learn your stoves, because some of these ovens that they have out there now, I mean, you can bake chicken within 30 minutes and it's completely done, because some of these ovens and stoves get so hot, and it's the difference between underbaking or burning something. So yeah, learn that oven and stove first.
So guys, anything else? Any last words, Lucia?
Now I'm gonna have to go bake something. I really feel the need now. This was very inspirational to me.
Hey, and look, because I remember last week or the last time when we did this, you guys asked about add-ins, mix-ins. Go for it. Kahlua, nuts. Go for it. Brownies. It's brownies. Who hasn't had Kahlua in brownies? put it in there. Bailey's Irish cream, put it in there. Pecans, walnuts, throw them in at the end. There you go. It's brownies. I'm telling you, you like Kristen said, you would have to work hard to mess this up. I want to know if you mess this up. You're not gonna mess it up. That's my point. You're not going to. You're not going to. I promise you.
Okay.
So y'all have fun. Spin them mixers. And these are brownies, so we're not sifting flour this time.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure when you are measuring out your liquid ingredients that you're using the correct measuring tools. You know, like as far as measuring cups versus measuring, like, hold on. Okay. So we know this is a measuring cup, but this is the correct measuring cup for liquid.
Right.
This is also a measuring cup, but this is for dry ingredients. So that's the difference. This is what I'm talking about is you want to make sure you're using the right tool for the right ingredient. Liquid, dry. You don't want to use the same half cup of liquid ingredients in here as you would in here because they may not be the same amount. Because now, like I said, you get into that whole volume and mass. And like I said, I didn't research all that before I started, like I should have. But trust me, don't mix these two up because I can't account for what may happen. You might end up with something that could be like where it's supposed to be moist. It might end up being too dry or it might be too liquidy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know right now how to counterbalance all of that. So just use the right tool for the right ingredient.
Sounds right. And you can't go wrong with that advice. Thank you for joining us again, Veronica. It's been a blast.
Oh my gosh, this is fun. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If you have any more questions for Veronica, let us know. We'll circle back around and have her answer them for you.
Oh, somebody somebody wants to know Veronica's IG name.
Do you have an IG?
I do. And off the top of my head,
not very you.
I'm hardly on there. I think Red Night Owl something.
Okay, we'll find out.
We'll find out, and we'll have her find out. Then she'll
I am rarely on Instagram, so I'm always on Facebook.
So that's really important because people do want to follow you because they are interested in what you are actually baking.
Oh, thanks, guys. You know how to make a girl feel so good.
So thanks again, Veronica.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Have a good one.
All right.
You join us, everyone. And we'll be back on Wednesday with Octavia Jones of Work Studios. She's going to show us some exercises that we can do at home. So we're going to follow up baking with some exercises.
That is monumental right there. Because if you're going to bake with me, you're going to need that exercise.
To work off those red velvet brownies.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks.
All right. See you.
Bye, y'all.